ago. Thanks very much for giving up your evening or part of your evening to find out a bit more about the course today. It's lovely to have so many of you attend this online session. And we're going to focus today on the Arts and Humanities Foundation Year course and all the great courses that you can progress onto. And you'll find out about the program, what you'll learn on the program, how it sets you up for your degree course, and lots of other things. So as I said, I work at the Lifelong Learning Centre. I'm joined by Liam, who's a colleague of mine in the Community and Partnerships team. But I'm also joined by Maddie and David. Maddie, David, I don't know if you would like to introduce yourselves, if that's all right.
Hi everyone, my name's Maddie Newman and I'm Programme Manager for the Arts and Humanities Foundation Year. So it's great to welcome you to the event this evening and tell you a bit more about the course.
Hi, my name's David. I'm a teaching fellow on the Arts and Humanities Foundation Year, so I'm one of the teachers, and some of the modules and the subjects we'll be talking about today are ones that I teach on as well.
Well, thanks, David. Thanks, Maddie. And as many questions as you have tonight, please feel free to ask us. I can see people already using the chat function, which is brilliant. But feel free to use it as much as you want. Ask as many questions as you want. That's what we're here for tonight, to answer any of those questions that you have. And it can be around, the foundation year itself, but it could be generally about foundation years, the entry requirements, the courses that you can progress onto, what you'll learn on the course. And just to mention as well, this isn't like a kind of one-stop shop where there's your only opportunity to ask about the course. We're available after this session. You can always contact us after if you have any questions, or if things crop up later on that you think of that you didn't think of now as well. So don't feel that you've got to ask all of your questions today, but if there's something you really want to know, feel free to ask us. Hopefully you can see my PowerPoint now, fingers crossed. Yeah, I can see a thumbs up from David. That's good. So we can see it. Brilliant. So as I mentioned, we'll go through the foundation years, but also a bit of general information about foundation years to start off, because I personally think that, it's good to kind of have a really broad understanding of what a foundation year is really, and why we have them, and a bit about our criteria, our entry requirements, including our widened participation criteria, which I'll touch on later on. And then I'm going to hand over to Maddie and David, and they're going to talk a bit about what you'll learn on the course and what you can progress onto as well, and a bit of a taster about that some of the things that you'll be learning about on the program. And then after that, we'll hear from a foundation year student. It may be a case that we have a video of one of our foundation year students rather than somebody here today. Unfortunately, just at this time of year, a lot of our students are really, really busy. However, we'll share the video with you after. But yeah, please feel free to ask any questions, as I said, as we go along. So I guess the first thing to talk about really is what is a foundation year? Well, foundation year is essentially an extra year you're going to study at university, which is going to prepare you for your chosen degree course. And it's particularly for people who aren't perhaps predicted the grades or don't have the qualifications that are required for immediate entry onto a particular degree course. Now, in these circumstances, you could take a foundation year. And foundation years really do prepare you for degree level studies, and there's a humongous range of courses that you can progress on, from a foundation year. Now, the Arts and Humanities course has a wide range of programs that you can progress onto, which Maddie and David will speak a bit about later, but courses as wide and varied as, English, journalism, courses in languages, for example, design arts courses, huge range of different programs that you can progress onto. But what it really does is get that understanding at a level that's needed for going on to study on your particular degree course. A foundation year is studied at university as well. So you will be at the University of Leeds when you start your foundation year. It's not separate, so you're at college or anything like that. You're at the university as soon as you start your foundation course. And when you finish your foundation year, so that's the first year of your studies, you'll then progress on to your chosen degree course within whatever faculty or school that's located in. So I guess the next thing is, who is a foundation year for? Well, I think it's for anybody who feels that they would really benefit from an extra year of study to prepare them for their degree course. And that's what a foundation year offers you. It offers you a supportive environment to prepare for your degree studies. And we understand as well that if you're coming onto a foundation year course, you're not going to necessarily have the grades or be ready for going on to your degree course yet. And as a result of that, our entry requirements reflect that. So our entry requirements are lower than they would be if you were going directly onto a degree course at the University of Leeds. So the Arts and Humanities course foundation year, a typical A-level offer, is currently at CDD, or BTEC's at Merit Pass. So you can see significantly different to if you are applying directly to English literature or geography, for example. And just to say as well that these aren't the only qualifications we accept for the foundation year, for the Arts and Humanities foundation year. There are a number of other qualifications that we accept, including access to higher education diploma, and they're all available on our website. And as well, there might be some of you who perhaps are thinking about coming to study a bit later on in life. Maybe you've had a break in your studies, maybe you've not had the opportunity before, maybe you've had a career and decided to have a bit of a change in life. And you're thinking, well, I don't have A-levels, I don't have BTEC qualifications. Is this course still for me? Yeah, it definitely is. You know, at the Life and Learning Centre, which I'll speak a bit about in a minute, we understand that adults, you know, come into life often without the qualifications that are asked for on a university website, but you bring a whole wealth and breadth of experience and knowledge, which is incredibly transferable to university studies. So don't rule yourself out if you think, I don't have those qualifications and I'm an adult, so somebody's 21 and above. Get in contact with us, speak to us, and we can look into it further for you. It may be a case that our guidance service might be something that'd be really suitable for you, and I'll speak a bit about that at the end as well. And it kind of brings me on to my last point a little bit as well, which is there's a huge range of students from all different backgrounds and all different ages who study foundation years at Leeds. So we have students, and I'm sure there'll be some of you listening now who are maybe doing your A-levels or BTECs or other qualifications at college or sixth form, perhaps. But then there'll also be people maybe who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond. And I think that's reflected on the foundation year courses at the Life and Learning Centre at the University of Leeds as well. I get this wrong every time. And every time I say it, I say I'm going to check, and I never do. But I think the oldest student currently, I think, is 74 who's studying at the Life and Learning Centre. So you can see there's a huge range of students, all range of backgrounds and ages. So studying a foundation year, I think, gives you this great opportunity to meet lots of different people who are going on to study lots of different courses within the university. It's quite a unique experience, I think, that you get there. But you can see really interesting some of the comments in the chat as well. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as I go along. But yeah, it is worth saying that, you know, there's lots of different ages of students at the University of Leeds, at the Life and Learning Centre in particular as well. And I'll just mention this, I'm sure Maddie and David will speak about this as well, but you know, when you're looking at foundation years, because of course you can study foundation years at other universities as well, at Leeds, you know, there's a lot of support that you can access when you're doing your foundation year. And I will just say as well that the Life and Learning Centre, if you're not familiar with it, is a school within the university that has courses, including the foundation year courses. But we also offer a lot of support as well for learners. And while you're on your foundation year, there's a lot of tailored study skills support that you can get access to. So to help you putting together an essay, for example, which of course you'll learn on your course as well. But you know, there's a lot of support that you can get. It could be around using the library. It could be around putting together an annotated bibliography, for example. These things that you not had the opportunities to do before, but you'll learn on your foundation year that will really set you up for going on to your degree. But you can access support, and that support might be, you know, it could be personal to yourself. That we've got a great student support officer called Paul who can help with all those extra things that come along when you're studying. It could be financial things, personal situation. You can request an appointment to speak about things like that. And the foundation years really do prepare you for going on to study in world-class departments within, you know, world-class reputations, or departments with world-class reputation, should I say, across the university. It really does. I think as well, something that I spoke about recently with a colleague was how often the Life and Learning Centre, even though you go on to study in different areas of the university, it's still like your second home. So even though you'll go on to different departments, it could be in English, could be in languages, it could be in different areas in history. Often students will still come back to the Lifelong Learning Centre and our resource area where students can work, and we'll work there and we'll use our facilities, and we'll still be in contact with tutors because of the support that you receive and how it prepares you for your studies. I don't think you forget that, and that people do keep coming back and using it, which I think is a real endorsement of the foundation years, really. And it's a really nice, welcoming environment as well. So I won't speak for too long because I want to pass on to Maddie and David so they can really give you an overview of the course. But just a couple of things I think it's important just to touch on. I mentioned our academic criteria, and we also have a widened participation criteria as well, along with our academic criteria. And this does have to be met as well for the particular course of Arts and Humanities foundation year. So one of the three must apply for you to be considered for the course. So you either grow up in public care, your permanent address is in an area with low participation in higher education, basically not many people in your local area go to university, or in the year you took your GCSEs, your school pass rates were lower than the national average. So crucially, that's not about your GCSEs, but about the schools. I would just say that if you're not sure about this, because it is a really hard thing to be aware of, particularly, you know, the last two, get in contact with us and we can look into it for you. Don't rule yourself out if you're not sure. If you think maybe I might meet that criteria, do send us an email and we can look into it further for you. But I just wanted to touch on that, just mention it as it is another criteria. I can see there's some things coming into the chat as well. I'll answer them as soon as I've gone through this, if that's okay. But thanks so much for all the questions. And then finally as well, because this can often be a concern for learners of all ages, but student finance isn't in any way negatively affected by studying on a foundation year. You will still receive funding for your tuition fee loan, and also your course, and also your maintenance loan as well, your living cost loan. So student finance essentially classes your foundation year as the normal duration of a course at university. So you're still eligible for everything else that everybody else is eligible for the moment you start your foundation year course. So as I mentioned, your tuition fee loan, which pays your course fees, your maintenance loan, but also things like childcare grants, if you're eligible for those, any disability support, if you're eligible for that, you'd still get it during your foundation year course. And actually, there's some fee discounts that the university offers, which, depending on your circumstances, could be up to £3,000 a year on top of what you get as well from student finance. So there's a lot of support there, and don't feel that by doing this extra year at university, you're negatively impacting your ability to access student finance. You're not at all. In fact, you're just like any other student when you're studying your foundation year. And no different to anybody else, you get access to the library, all the facilities, you can join societies in the student union, you're no different at all. And when you graduate as well, it's not going to say that you graduated with a foundation year and, you know, and then a degree in English, for example. It will just say the course that you graduated on your certificate. So it's the pathway, a preparatory pathway onto your degree, as opposed to the qualification you'll leave with at the end. Now, I'm going to pass on to David now, and I'll answer some of the questions that have come in the chat, if that's okay. But yeah, thanks so much for asking all the questions, and I'll pass on to you if that's okay. I'll stop sharing my screen now, David.
Yeah, I'll just upload my slides, so bear with me and let me know when you can see them as well. All right. Okay. Let me know if and when you can see anything.
So David, we can see them now on the screen, I think.
Yeah. Is that maximized for you guys? Magic. Okay. All right. So, yes, Maddie and I are here to tell you about the Arts and Humanities Foundation year that John has very eloquently introduced. Thank you very much, John. You've already met us. My name's David again. We're two of the main tutors on the course, but there are other colleagues, academic specialists, but also skills specialists as well, to help you with your work. And I'll hand over to Maddie now to talk about progression.
Okay, thanks, David. So we wanted to tell you a little bit about how the foundation year works as a first year of an extended degree programme at the university. And the foundation year is based in the Lifelong Learning Centre, and we offer progression into a wide range of degree courses at the university in the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Cultures. And we also have progression into BA Professional Studies in the Lifelong Learning Centre. But the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Cultures has a vast array of degree programmes and options. And if we just take you through to the next slide, you'll be able to see some of those areas. So we progress into the School of English, the School of History, the School of Philosophy, Religion and the History of Science, the School of Languages, Cultures and Societies, which also links in with a lot of joint honours combinations, and we've just outlined a few of those in the slide that you can see here. We also have BA Liberal Arts, but the kind of subjects within those different schools are quite diverse, and there's lots of avenues that students take. So that's sort of one aspect of our degree programmes. And then we also have other schools within the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Cultures that you can see listed here. So we have further progressions into School of Design, Fine Art, History of Art and Cultural Studies, Media and Communications, Music and Performance and Cultural Industries. And there's a few kind of examples there of the kind of degrees that come under those academic schools. So as a result of that, we have a programme that is designed to support progression into all those course areas. It's what we call an interdisciplinary programme, which means learners take a broad range of subjects with us. And we sort of work with students to think about, you know, how the subjects that we explore in the foundation year will kind of link into their future degrees. And the programme also looks at developing skills, you know, generally for being an arts and humanities student. We have another aspect of the programme which allows students to take a module in the school they're going into, which I think David's going to talk about as well. So I'll hand over to David to talk a little bit about the discovery module, if that's okay.
Yeah. So on the foundation year itself, you do 5 foundation year modules with us, taught by us in the Lifelong Learning Centre. What we're going to do after this is we're going to take you through our modules, the different subjects, and tell you a bit about them. Then we're going to do a sort of exercise where we're going to try out a bit of kind of arts and humanities kind of seminar chat. But we'll get to that in a bit. But as well as our 5 modules, all our students do what we call a discovery module. Like Maddie said, it is a module in your future department from the first year. So as well as your 5 foundation year modules, you would do, let's say we've got a student going into the history department, they would do a first year history module. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One, our course is quite interdisciplinary. It's lots of different kind of disciplines, got a bit of history, a bit of art, a bit of journalism, a bit of philosophy, a bit of English. But the discovery module allows you to pursue your specific subject interest that you're going on to study for a degree. And what it also means is that by the time you finish the foundation year and you progress onto the first year of your degree, you've already been to the department, you've already been to lectures, you've already been to seminars. So it's not a new thing. You've already got one foot in the department and you've met people. And it works really well. And there's you know, lots of different modules that our students end up doing that always sound really interesting. I'm quite upset I can't take them myself, but I've looked into it and it's not allowed. But I'll try again next year. All right.
Thanks, David. And just to sort of add into that, just to explain a bit more about how sort of progression works from the course. So learners identify a progression route within those areas we've described, and in order to progress into their degree after completion of the foundation year, they need to pass the foundation year at a particular pass mark grade, which is set by their academic school. Some of our courses have a progression grade of 60 at university level. others have a progression grade of 50, and sometimes there are additional requirements like an interview or a portfolio for fine art and design courses. But we work with learners as part of the progression process through the year, and how we support them via tutorials to sort of explore kind of, you know, what they're aiming for in the foundation year, and you know, support them through that journey into their first year of their degree programme.
All right, so we'll talk you through a bit about the course now, kind of module by module, so you know what kind of things are appearing on the course, what kind of topics that they are. So, like I said, we've got 5 modules, and this is what they're called. They've got the module codes there as well because we're being thorough, but you don't need to remember the numbers. The modules are called Modernity and Postmodernity, Image, Music and Text, Religion, Politics and Society, the Renaissance, and Communications. So they're split into different semesters. So in semester 1, so from September to December, the modules are Religion, Politics and Society, and Modernity and Postmodernity. So this is Religion, Politics and Society. And I'll hand over to Maddie to tell you a bit about this.
Okay, so Religion, Politics and Society is one of our semester 1 modules, and it's taught by one of our tutor team colleagues. And the module is really designed to introduce students to the ways in which the topics of religion, politics and society interconnect. And we look at Leeds as a case study. So we look at the way in which learners kind of encounter some of the themes within the module initially through the university, through things like chaplaincy, and we also have kind of connections with the student union. And we think about Leeds as a multi-faith city as part of our kind of discussion of current thinking, current issues in religion, politics and society. And the module is really focused on exploring contemporary issues. For example, it looks at themes like religion and the environment. And I think we have a slide there of chaplaincy on campus kind of coming up. And this is somewhere that students on the programme at the moment are visiting as part of their reflective blog assignment that they complete for this module. And there's also a online timed assessment essay format assessment for this module as well. So it's designed to introduce some of those topics that are really helpful for students across the arts and humanities, but also where learners might go into subjects like philosophy, theology and religion, and other kind of linked in progressions. But it's a module that complements our other learning very nicely, and I'll hand over to David to talk a bit more about our next module.
So the next module in semester 1 is called Modernity and Postmodernity, and it's really interdisciplinary. There's lots of different topics in that, but we start by posing the question: what do we mean by modern? What does it mean to describe something as modern? And we start off looking at what modernity and modernism meant in terms of history and literature and art and sociology in the mid-20th century, so just before the First World War and between the 2 world wars. And then we move after the Second World War into ideas of post-modernity, postmodern. So what is postmodern art? What is postmodern literature? We look at, again, history, philosophy, art, photography, literature, film. It deals with all sorts of subjects. I don't know if I've left anything out there, Maddie, because it's a bit of everything, isn't it? But around the concept of what is modern and what is postmodern.
Definitely, I think, you know, we dip into lots of different sort of, I suppose, real world examples to help us explore those concepts of modernity and postmodernity. And we sort of spend some time working together to develop sort of thinking and definitions. But I think you've covered lots of the areas there, David.
Right. This is an example of some postmodern art that we threw in, but this is some soup cans that are modelled on a very famous painting by an artist called Andy Warhol, who we talk a little bit about on the module. Okay. The next module is a module called Image, Music and Text. And Image, Music and Text does a number of things. First of all, it introduces us to ideas of how to, quote unquote, read things at university level. So how do you look at a piece of writing and break down kind of what it's saying, how it's working? How do you look at an image like a photograph or a painting and look at how it's conveying its meaning? Or how do you listen to a piece of music and see what it's doing, like film music? How does it affect the way you interpret the story? and things like that. So we're kind of reading different texts, different materials, and getting to grips with how to kind of break that down and talk about it. And one of the things it then does is it moves into a series of workshops that allow you to work on your own creative projects based on these ideas. And you really have a wide range of possibilities there. It's we've had students work on put their own podcast together, creative writing, photo journals, websites, anything that uses image and music and text to convey stories and convey meaning. So it's one for literary critics, but also historians, but also journalists, but also artists. It benefits everyone. And the interesting thing about this module is it starts in semester 1, but it goes for the whole year. So it starts for semester 1 and starts again and then carries on in January. It lasts. So it's a kind of a long, thin module that goes on over the course of the year because you're working on a creative project that takes a bit of time. But yeah, it's a good one. Well, they're all good, obviously, but this one. And here's an example of something we look at on image using text. So this is from the text section. This is an extract from quite a famous story, I guess, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. If you haven't read or seen A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, I would hope that you have seen at least A Muppet's Christmas Carol, which is a classic movie that everyone should see at least once. But the interesting thing about this is not just what Charles Dickens is saying about the character of Scrooge, but how he's saying this description of Ebenezer Scrooge. So he's a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, self-contained as solitary as an oyster. And that image of him being as solitary as an oyster is something that our students kind of really spend time on. What does it mean to describe someone as an oyster? Does it mean they're kind of closed? Does it mean they're hard to get into, hard to crack? But when you open it up, they've got a pearl inside sometimes. Does that mean he's kind of super greedy, or does that mean there's some goodness in him as well? Sorry, I've started teaching a seminar, but this is one of the things one of the exercises we do on the module. It's a really interesting one. So in semester 2, after Christmas into January, image, music, text carries on, but we have 2 new modules. The first one is communications, and I'll hand over to Maddie.
Okay, so communications, as David said, is one of our semester 2 modules, and this is a module that in many ways kind of carries on our timeline that we've begun to think about in modernity and post-modernity. So thinking about changes in society and culture kind of through the 20th century into the 21st century. And we spend a lot of time in this module really thinking about kind of contemporary issues in media and society. And it's a module we thought a lot about over recent years because we were delivering some of the communications module online in lockdown, and we really kind of reconfigured some aspects of our module to think about the digital and digital media and how much, you know, communication maybe has changed in some formats over recent years. So it does address contemporary issues. We look at themes like image and Instagram and text and Twitter. We spent a lot of time kind of thinking about you know, I suppose how we might kind of think through things that are happening in the world that connect with communications. But the other side of that, I suppose, is to introduce students to key ideas and theories in the area of media and communications, and also to help students develop their skills around analysing media text, so analysing newspaper, television, online digital content. This quote here in the slide kind of links into, I suppose, some of the things we consider as part of this module, this idea that we're sort of thinking what news is, kind of how it shapes our lives, and kind of how we can kind of analyse it and think about it from an arts and humanities perspective, and kind of thinking about meanings that are conveyed through news and other media formats. So it's an interesting module that really raises lots of discussion points and also kind of builds on some of our learning from semester 1 and things that students have been doing in image, music and text as well.
So the next and final module we want to talk to you about today is the Renaissance in the 2nd semester, which is, I guess, a kind of a straightforward kind of history module. We look at the English Renaissance period, so the 1500s and the kind of the early to mid 1600s. But calling it a kind of a simple history module is, I think, doing it a disservice. We look at kind of history, what is going on in these centuries that is important. What can the culture tell us about the people who live there? We look at the art, portraits, we look at the literature, the plays, the poetry, the philosophy, the legal ideas, what were the laws at the time. We look at key people, key historical events. We have guest speakers, subject experts from the university. And at one point, we also go into the special collections at the Brotherton Library here at the University of Leeds that has kind of original Renaissance paintings and documents that we can look at as well. So again, it's really interdisciplinary. It kind of caters for whatever subject you're going on to study for your degree as well. And John, if it's okay, I thought I might segue now into a little sample task study session to just give a taster of the sort of thing we might do in a seminar, if this is the right time for that. Yeah, thumbs up, that's good to do. So I thought it'd be a good idea. We'll stick with the Renaissance. Don't worry, this is going to be easy. I'm going to show you a historic painting from the Renaissance period. And I just want your ideas, quick ideas. First of all, what you can see. What do you think stands out in this painting? If you have any ideas, just pop them in the comments box. You should have access to the comments box and can write some things in. And then we're going to have a think about what it's saying about the subject, the person, who is Queen Elizabeth I. So this is the painting. Now this is colloquially, this is kind of called the Armada painting. And it's of the then Queen Elizabeth I. And the reason it's called the Armada painting is because it was painted shortly after the country of Spain tried to invade England, and it was defeated by the English Navy. And the Spanish fleet was called the Armada. And so this is a painting that was designed to sort of commemorate that the English naval victory, and Elizabeth allegedly went down and gave a speech to the soldiers before the battle. Now, Queen Elizabeth very, very rarely let any pictures be circulated that weren't exactly how she wanted to be seen. So this picture is full of little clues, little bits and bobs that tell us how Elizabeth I wanted us to think of her. And there's loads going on in the picture. That it's quite busy. But I'd just like your opinions on what you think stands out about this. What do you notice? What aspects are kind of prominent or interesting or odd? And then we'll see what they might say about her. I'm afraid I can't see the chat, John, so you're going to have to look out for me. But yeah, any ideas? What stands out here? What's in this painting that looks a bit interesting or weird?
Shall I read them out to you, David?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Ella has mentioned the hands on the globe, the world's in her hands.
Hands on the globe. Let's stick with that. We'll move on. So keep posting. But the hands on the globe is really interesting, because I love it. What might that say about Elizabeth at this point? Why is her hand on the globe? It's an important point. Any ideas what it's saying about Elizabeth, or why she would have her hand on the globe? Any ideas?
I can see lots of great points here in the chat. Some really interesting things about her dress being really prominent. Go on. Just sort of that she wants to be seen by kind of her audience. People picking up on
not supposed to
yeah. Yeah, the other features like the nautical themes, the boats in the background, sort of different symbolism. Because there's lots of elements, really, isn't there, going on here for us to.
Yeah. So absolutely. So the dress she's meant to be seen. You're meant to know she's a queen. She's meant to be kind of quite big and imposing, because she's just won a massive military victory. So she's kind of big and imposing. The hand on the globe, I think, is really good. It's intent, like it's showing her power. She's going to kind of leave England and send her forces out. I don't know if you can see, her hand is actually over North America, and she was sending out ships to North America at this point to sort of claim bits of land. So there's very much that as well. The ships in the background, someone pointed that out, right? I thought that's a really good observation. On the left, we have some ships on calm golden seas, and that is the English fleet because the sea itself wants them to win. But on the right-hand side, we have the Spanish ships on the green and storm-tossed rocky seas all being defeated. So it's got her own victorious ships on one side and the defeated Spanish ships on the other. But the nautical theme as well. She's covered in dresses covered in pearls. I don't know if you can see, which obviously come from the water as well. So it's like she belongs to the water. She controls the water. Anything else, anyone, or have we found everything we can in this painting? Are there any other observations, Maddie?
There's quite a few. It's some excellent stuff going on in the chat.
Yeah,
some really detailed analysis.
Yep.
So themes around her sort of being a powerful woman, her wanting to look regal, and the fact that she's kind of in charge, connections maybe with Atlas holding the world.
Ooh, I like that idea. So like a bit of Greek myth in there as well. I love it. Yeah.
She's guarding the globe.
That's a nice idea. Like she's
yeah,
protecting it as well. I love that. That's a great idea.
And also sort of comments about her kind of complexion, sort of no blemishes there, and you know how I suppose she might be appearing within the image.
Yeah, there are loads of portraits of Elizabeth where she's kind of like an angel or a goddess as well. She's not supposed to look human. She's supposed to look like better than human. So that kind of blemishless, kind of ghostly face kind of works like that as well. Her dress is fantastic. You see the size of her sleeves, right? Her arms weren't that big. They're huge. If you ever see a portrait of her dad, who's Henry VIII, you might have seen kind of pictures of Henry VIII. He's also got massive kind of puffed sleeves on. And I think she's trying to reference, oh, do you remember who my dad was? Yeah, don't forget, my dad was Henry VIII, kind of boasting about it as well. Did anyone notice the mermaid in the bottom right-hand corner?
Yes, that is there in the chat. So I missed it.
Oh, sorry, guys.
It's there.
Yeah, the mermaid's an interesting one. Is it comparing Elizabeth to a mermaid? I mean, what comes to mind when you think of mermaids at this point, or what do you think of this particular mermaid? Any ideas about how that looks or what it might represent? Is it a positive image? Is it a negative image? Any thoughts? Any ideas? Any comments coming in?
Sorry, they're just sort of lots of comments coming into the chat here.
Right. Oh no! Sorry, I can see the comments.
Can you see the chat?
No, I'm looking at them now. Could the mermaid be representative of the bust from the Golden Hind? Oh, Liam, I like that idea. That's great. It's looking directly at her. It is. That's a really good observation. Why is it looking directly at her? What is that? She's guarded by it. I like that. It's like these kind of creatures, these supernatural creatures, are kind of looking after her. It's referring to her. Suzanne, yeah, it's a good point. Queen Elizabeth, Thomas, Queen Elizabeth is a siren leading naval enemies to their demise. Yes, the mermaids would sing and make ships crash. So she has made the Spanish fleet crash. Great idea, Thomas. Lovely. Sorry, Lim, so your outfit shows to be bulked out. Yeah, and the hands are very delicate. Oh, yes. So bulky outfit, but delicate hands. So she's prominent, she's strong, but she's also feminine as well. Yeah, loads going on here. Thomas says the angel idea, I think, ties to the divine right to rule. Absolutely, she is ordained by God to rule. So she's like an angel. That's a lovely idea. Power, wealth, health, control. Yes, all sorts. Thomas, well, blemishless face. Don't left-facing creatures represent cowardice? Ooh, I don't know, Thomas. I've not heard of that, but I'd love to know if that's the case. Suzanne says it's looking directly at her because she rules the sea. So the mermaid is deferring to her. She's so powerful. That's Suzanne. That's a lovely idea. I love it. Oh, I'm glad I did this. I'm learning loads actually. Refer to herself as powerful as a mermaid. Yeah. Empire. She used lots of pirates. She did use lots of pirates actually. Or the polite term for pirates was privateers. Other countries had pirates, but England had privateers at this point. Was the way that Elizabeth spun it. Yeah, she did use a lot of pirates to combat the Spanish, particularly. Yeah, I think you've absolutely got the interpretation of the mermaid spot on. It's deferring to her, it's kind of supernatural, it's protecting her, but she is also the mermaid luring soldiers to their deaths on the rocks. Wonderful. Wonderful. It looks like you would have at the front of a ship. Yes, it does. It looks like the figurehead on a ship, doesn't it? So it's, again, it's stressing that she's at home on a boat. To my knowledge, I don't know if she ever sailed on a boat in battle. I doubt it, but it's kind of suggesting that, you know, she's got the boats that she can call on. You don't know why I'm fascinated by the boat, the bow ties. Well, the bows on her dress are fantastic, aren't they? Yeah, there's lots of them. Is that just to show her wealth? Maybe there is no emotion. Ooh, sorry, I missed that. Someone just said there's no emotion. I missed who that was. A boat. Yeah, there is no emotion. Yeah. Why do you think that is? There's no emotion. Why isn't she? I mean, she just won a battle. Why isn't she happier? It's interesting. I feel like collar is at an odd angle, maybe to seem more perfect. Yeah, to me, it's like a halo, right? I know it's in the wrong place for a halo, but this kind of surrounding her, it's kind of too perfect, right? Yeah, exactly. They're quite feminine. Oh, you mean the bows are quite feminine? Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's important. A lot of imagery about Queen Elizabeth has her as both masculine and feminine, as both a man and a woman. She does this speech where she says, before this battle, I may have the heart and stomach. Oh no, this is her language, not mine, so I apologize. I may have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king. She's both a queen and a king to this point, which is really interesting. So the bows are kind of a marker of her femininity. To portray her as a stoic ruler, yeah, she's keeping it calm. She's not overexcited. She's not laughing. She's just a calm, stoic ruler. I think stoic is the word there. She's not wearing the crown. Oh, what a great observation. She's not wearing the crown. She's going to be bigger and stronger than the male monarch. Yes, she's better. That's why she's got her hand on the globe. She's going to do something more than her father ever did, who wore the crown. I need to be taking notes. I'm teaching this in like 3 months' time. I should be making some notes of these. Wonderful.
We've kind of got so many ideas there. It's almost like, you know, an essay we could put together
really
from those contributions. So thank you, everyone. That's fantastic.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, actually, I could go on for hours. So you need to stop me whenever. She won't show weakness, and that's why she can't show emotions. Yeah, she can't show that. She has to show strength. Can't show weakness. Brilliant. Lots of jewels, diamonds. Yeah, fold in the tablecloth. It looks identical to England. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, there's loads of nice materials. So sorry, John, probably need to move on now. I don't know. I can't spend. Sorry, guys. I'm really enjoying this, but I'll move on. I'm closing down the comments now. If you have, I'm sure there's lots of more witty and clever things to say. So well done, all of you. That was phenomenal. But that's a little taster of the sort of thing for example, we might do, what we do on the Renaissance module. But kind of other modules where we take a text from a period, we kind of break it down, see what it's saying. So wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got to move on. Move on to the next one. Maddie, can you tell us about personal tutors?
Yeah, so I think there was just a couple of other areas we wanted to talk to you about, just to give you a full sort of picture of the different kinds of elements of the foundation year. So we talked through sort of how things work with progression and where the course progresses to, and the modules and the kind of things we might be studying. But just to say, another sort of feature of the foundation year is the fact that we focus on supporting learners through their foundation year journey into their chosen degree programme. And we have lots of support within the university through the role of an academic personal tutor. So all students at Leeds have an academic personal tutor, and this is also something we have as part of the foundation year. So you will have a tutor that would work with you to support you through the year, and they're there to kind of assist you with your academic progress and to support you as you develop skills step by step through the year. In the foundation year, the role of the tutor is also there to support you. As you said, we're thinking about your steps and journey towards progression. But this is sort of that part of the programme that sort of sits outside the modules. So I think it's just helpful to be aware that that is part of the course as well. And the other feature of the foundation year is thinking about supporting you with skills development. And David's going to talk a little bit about sort of how we support learners with the skills side of being at university and developing into the degree course.
So we've told you a bit about the modules and their kind of subject topics, where we kind of look at specific kind of artworks, art, humanities topics, and ideas and theories and history. But we're also aware that studying at university requires you to develop skills like researching a topic, using the library, putting together an essay, planning an essay, writing skills. And you know, we don't expect everyone to come to us fully formed. So we have these study skills baked into the module. So we talk about these things as while we're teaching the those specific modules that we talked about, but we also have a dedicated study skills team who are different from Maddie and I, who are subject specialist teachers. We have a study skills team who offer workshops, one-on-one meetings, resources, advice, helping you start work on an assignment, whether that's exam prep or an essay or a presentation, advice on writing. So when you've got feedback, they can go through that with you so you know how to sort of plan for the next one. Ideas on how to read in a productive way, make notes, go to the library or online and find useful material. Yeah, and just kind of planning and sharpening your critical skills. So we've got you covered, basically. Maddie, I think that might be us. If you have any questions, get in touch.
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, I know there's things in the chat that we'll also sort of answer any of the further questions as well a bit later on in the session. But I think that those are the main areas we wanted to sort of outline this evening, really, about the course.
I've thank you firstly so much, Maddie and David, for going through that and for the taster. That was fascinating. I was really fascinated reading everybody's observations. It was really, really good. I've actually picked out some of the questions that I didn't answer in the chat, and I thought maybe this would be a good time to answer them if that's okay with you guys. Is that okay, Maddie and David?
Just to say, John, that one of our Progress students, Rufus, has joined us this evening.
Oh, brilliant.
So we can also hear from a student that has progressed from the programme, if that's okay. So I'm not sure where we want to fit
definitely
that in.
I didn't realize, I wasn't sure if Rufus would be available or not, but thanks so much for giving up your time. So Rufus, what course did you study after your foundation year?
Film, photography and media. Amazing.
Are you okay sharing a bit about your experiences on sorry to put you on the spot,
absolutely.
About your course and what you went on to study? That would be absolutely brilliant. But thanks so much for giving up your time to give a bit of maybe that additional perspective, which I think is so important to hear about somebody who's, you know, it's great to hear about the course and everything else, but to hear from somebody who's actually done it and what they went on to do after and how it set them up for their degree, I think is just, you know, invaluable. It really is. Is that the right word, invaluable? I think that's the right word. Anyway, I'll stop talking and I'll pass on to you, Rufus, if that's all right.
Sorry, Rufus and John, really quickly, can I get Rufus to go on the biggest screen? Is that okay? Just so we've got it for the video. So if we stop sharing the screen just for now, just so it's bigger.
Oh, right, I see. Yeah, David, are you okay to stop sharing your screen? Amazing. Right, go for it, Rufus.
Right. Well, yeah, absolute. What can I say? This is where I make David and Maddie cry. My journey was absolutely just, you know, no education at all. Leaving school at the age of 15, writing to Leeds saying, how can I get into education at the age of 53? And Leeds saying, well, look, there is a route, and that pathway is a foundation course, which is equivalent of about 3 A levels, and I guess sort of validates you that you're ready to enter into a degree. Now, that might not be the same for many of you, but that's how it was for me. So I was incredibly nervous. I had no real idea about education or what's expected of me in education. So put it this way, anyone that's here that's got the same journey as me, I can reassure you, anyone that's coming from any kind of education prior, be it secondary school or college or whatever, well, you're miles in front of where I was already. But they took me and they knocked me around a bit and just loved me, embraced me, And there I was getting my foundation year in order to progress into what I am now in year 2 of my degree. It's one of the most incredible experiences that you will get working with these guys. They're so clever. They are so clever, but they're so humble. They're so lovely. They don't push the fact that they're clever down you. They just share their brains with you. They share that ability to say, listen, guys, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? How to do close reading? I mean, the old QE1 picture rolled out there with the Queen and the pearl necklace. And I hope someone spotted all the maritime stuff as well, because she was Queen of the Seas. And of course, her hand on the globe, which meant she was the governor of the world at that time. I mean, I remember all these readings. They're fascinating. You'll come out of your foundation year almost being like, well, I've done that. Do I really need to do a degree? And then you'll realize that actually, of course, you need to do the degree, because you're then going to specialize in something. But I cannot encourage anyone that's on this webinar now enough to just go forward into the foundation year. It'll be one of the most incredible experiences of your life, and you will never forget what you got from Maddie and David, because I still embrace them. And that's why when I get an email to say, oh, is anyone free to do something, to say anything, I will always reply to them and say yes. Because for me, for someone who left school at 15 with nothing, I have everything to thank them for, because without them, I wouldn't be doing my degree. And a degree at University of Leeds, one of the top 100 universities of the world, for goodness sake. So it's not just any old place, you know, it's a red brick. Anyway, have I said too much?
No, that's brilliant, Rufus. Thank you so much. I think it's so nice to hear, you know, your perspective as a student and how you found, you know, it supported you, and also the support that you received on the course, you know, from Maddie and David. So thank you so much for, you know, for giving up your time. And I'm sure you'll be happy to answer any questions if any attendees have any. Is that all right?
Fire it away, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, but yeah, really is great to hear it. And I think you know, I think that, you know, your experience is something that a lot of students, you know, who study foundation years will share, you know, that kind of how much it prepares you for your degree program that you go on to study as well. And how actually, as you said, which I thought was a great point, you know, that you're really prepared as well for when you go on. And actually, you know, when comparing to people who maybe are starting in year 1 of the degree, you've got a head start because you know how to use all those facilities already.
Way ahead. Way ahead of anyone else that was in year 1 of the degree. It was like we'd already done year 1 of the degree. And in fact, I think I remember David saying to us, I'm not going to treat you like anything other than degree students here, because it will give you the, and I remember being quite frightened when he said that. I was thinking, hang on a minute, this is foundation year. But all respect, I'm so pleased he did, because the standards are so high in the foundation year, but the support is so enormous that it really, like, you come out of it thinking, God, I've achieved that. You go into year 1 of your degree and you think it's almost like stepping down a step, not in a derogatory way, but you almost feel like you're stepping down from the level of quality of teaching and learning that you've experienced in year 1. So it will give you all the confidence for you to settle into year 1 of your degree, just going, well, I can do this. This is not a problem, because I've just come out of foundation year, you know, which essentially you feel like you are stepping down into slightly lower level of expectation. So it's great for that reason.
We've actually had a couple of questions, Rufus, if that's all right as well.
Yeah.
So Liam's just asked, how did you find entering back into education after a prolonged period of time? And is there anything you know now that you wish you knew when you started the journey as well?
Well, I can use very explicit words, but probably not to offend anyone. But I was, put it this way, very, very nervous is a good way of putting it. You can read between the lines as to the other words that I could have used. But it's the second part of that question was, can you just repeat the second part of that question?
Yeah, sure. So was there anything you would like to have known when you started, you know, something you wish you knew, which I guess you know now, I guess?
I think it's a good question, Liam, but I think everyone learns in a different way. So to answer that in an honest way and not to deceive you or mislead anyone that's listening, I can only apply it to my journey, can't I? Well, my journey was that within a few weeks of actually joining, we discovered that I was dyslexic and that I had ADHD. I mean, who knew? And the reason we discovered that is just because of my learning process of how I needed to go forward. But had I have been in school, had I have gone to do GCSEs, had I have done A levels, it probably would have been picked up at a much earlier stage. But it wasn't. I was out there in the world just earning a living and doing stuff. So when it came to doing readings, you know, like reading books, writing essays, it was suddenly that, oh, perhaps my approach to that wasn't necessarily, you know, what one would have expected. But then again, Life Learning Centre has that support. So before long, we were discovering that, I did the tests and it was acknowledged that that's what I had. And even now, you know, every time I write an essay, I've just finished a 3,000 word essay for someone that I've done as an assessment, you know, as part of the degree. And the first thing I do is I put this thing at the front of it that says, you know, that is my disability. You know, I never thought I was disabled. I don't see myself as disabled, but actually I'm more reassured. So if there was anything that I could have done differently, I don't think so, apart from, I suppose, you know, be open with people, reach out to people, and don't hold anything back, you know, because people need to know what you're feeling. They need to know if you're struggling. They need to know. They're not there to guess it, and they're not there to surmise it either. There's nothing worse than someone looking at you and thinking, oh, perhaps you've got a problem. So you really do need to sort of feel comfortable in the sense of reaching out to people if you're ready to, and say, I'm finding it hard to read these books. They're full of funny words. I mean, they are, aren't they? All these big words. Now I'm not so bothered about them because I realise that, you know, they're only just language. And, you know, the more you start to understand what university's about and what learning's about, the more confident you have. So I can't necessarily say, Liam, that I would have done it in a different way, because it was my way, you know, it was my learning journey. So if anything, feel confident that you're going to have your way. Whatever your way is the right way.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks very much. I think it's brilliantly summed up. And yeah, just to mention as well that you know, there is a lot of support that, you know, Rufus, you touched on with regards to the Life and Learning Centre and what support you can get in the Life and Learning Centre as well. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you can access there with regards to guidance, which I'll speak about in a minute, but also with regards to support that you can get on the course, which Maddie and David spoke about as well. So don't feel that, you know, firstly, I think you know, and Rufus, I think you covered this really, really well. You know, don't feel that you're the only person in the situation that you're in when you start the course, that there's lots of learners who might be in similar situations, come into education later on in life. So don't feel like you're in it on your own. There's a lot of support. I think would you agree Rufus, that you can access while you're on the course as well, and during
Absolutely. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a sea of people. There's a sea of people. I mean, perhaps that can be a little bit daunting. You know, many of you might find that, you know, there's this sea of emails of all these people reaching out to you saying, well, I do this and I do that, and oh, and I'm the person for this. And it can be a little bit like, whoa, you know, I just want one or two people in my life right now, not 20. So, but as I say, everyone's got a personal journey. So you have to have that 20 to be able to support the individuals in different ways. So it's a case of sometimes just stepping back and reaching out and physically coming in. Get your ass into the Life Learning Centre, you know, and start to see faces and you know, try and get out of that virtual world that we were pushed into, and some of us are now almost too used to. You know, you really want to start getting that animalistic side back into your life and start reaching out and speaking to people and come into the centre and see who's there. I take it Paul's still working, who's another amazing person. You've probably already spoken about Paul, but he really is like the tentacles to everyone, isn't he? He's the person that can sit there and go, "Whoa, you need this person. Oh, hey, you need this person. Ah, you need that person," and that is Paul. So he's definitely a good person to sort of get you to who to reach out to, perhaps in the first instance. But I'm not sure if that's his role or whether I've just given him a new job.
Oh, thanks, Andy. Sorry, Rufus. One question for you that we've had was, how many mature learners are there on your course at the moment? And I guess the wider question is, you know, if there isn't, you know, what is your, you know, is your experience, you know, on a course with learners of all ages, I guess, is the question really.
It's an interesting. I keep questioning that, because I think when you're older, there's this thing about ageism, and you kind of, as an older person, you think, oh, perhaps all younger people don't really want to speak to you. And then I think as a younger person, you might think that most older people don't really want to speak to you. That you've got to sort of stick within your own age groups. And there's good reason for that, because obviously you could be anything from humour, changes in ways, knowledge changes in ways, life experience changes in different ways. But then, you know, I'm studying film photography and media. I've been in as an industry, as a professional, I've worked in film all my life. So I don't see age. I don't see it as an issue. But I think, what is there, 3,000, about 3,500 mature students on the campus at any one time, and they're all there. I think one of the things that I do find is I think I get a lot of younger people nod at me as I'm walking along, because I think they assume I'm a professor. So they're like, oh yeah, there's that professor that's always on campus. I don't think they probably initially see me as a student. Once you start to get to know your cohort, there's this thing that you can make the mistake of, is that you alienate yourself because you assume that you might not fit in with a certain category of people. And what you don't realize is that everyone's going through that same experience. Everyone at the end of the day have been thrown together into a university. So as I've got to speak to more and more younger people, because predominantly, you know, I am surrounded by younger people, there's no doubt, there's no good denying that. There's no good hiding it. But when I've got to speak to them, a lot of them have sort of said, well, I don't really have any friends, or I don't really get to speak to anyone, or I'm a little bit unsure about who to mix with. Because that's the life, that's the thing about university. But if you turn that around, that's the wonder of university, isn't it? That you're going to meet loads of different people, and the only person that will stop you progressing is yourself, because it sets it up for you to just do it. The university can't tell you to do something. It can't tell you to join a society. It can't tell you to fall in love with bread making. It can't tell you that suddenly you're opening up to new emotions and feelings and different weird and wonderful things that make you a human. It can't tell you what those are. It can only allow you to begin to experience them. So when it comes to sort of age, I kind of ignore the age thing, because I am who I am, and I just think, like me or hate me. I can't expect everyone to like me. I hope everyone doesn't hate me. That's all I can go for. But you've got to be yourself, and then allow people to access you if they want to. And in doing that, I think the expectation that you had, you realise is quite naive. It's quite naive, or it's quite sort of like a precondition that you've created in your own head to think, oh, I'm going to be this older person, whereas actually, it's not something to make an issue of. Really, it's just realise that you're a student surrounded by students, being taught by professors and doctors. That's it.
I think that's just, yeah, I think you summed it up brilliantly. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're quite right. As you said, your students, like everybody else, irrespective of age and background. And as you pointed out, I think it's about 2,500 mature learners, so people who are 21 and above. I think it's 2,500. I say that it's 2,500 as if I'm really sure of it. Again, it's like the oldest student. I think it's that. I think I heard Paul say it once, and I've gone and said that's it. But it's around that amount anyway. And also, there's students from all different parts of the world as well. I think there's over 100 countries that are represented at the University of Leeds as well. So it really is an opportunity to meet students from all ages and all backgrounds. But yeah, thank you so much. For give you a virtual round of applause, Rufus. I would thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant.
Any time. And if any of the guys that are on this webinar, if you are joining us, the name's Rufus Stone, film photography and media. Anyone wants to reach out to me, you're safe to do so. And you can do that through the guys that are going to lead you through, or reach out into me independently. I don't mind. It's a very small world.
Well, thank you very much. That's really kind of you, and thanks, for giving us that perspective as well. Really, really do appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's just summed it up really, really well about what it's like to be a student on the course, and your experience is absolutely brilliant. I'm going to really quickly share my screen. In fact, I won't share my screen because we've got quite a few questions for Maddie and David. So rather than do that, I'll just tell you about our guidance service as well, because we'll send you some information after. But Rufus mentioned about some of the support that is available at the University of Leeds, and some of it will be when you're on course. But prior to that as well, if you're an adult who hasn't had the opportunity to go to university before, we do offer an advice and guidance service at the University of Leeds and the Life and Learning Centre. And this is specifically for anybody who is wanting to find out more about studying. It's free and it's impartial as well. So it's not about trying to get you onto a course at the university. It's about finding out what's right for you and what those next steps are. So it can be planning a bit of a journey to a particular professional course you want to study, and maybe there's qualifications you do before you get there. But it could be looking at the qualifications you've studied previously. It could be lots of different things. It could be around finance, or putting together an application. So I think somebody's mentioned in the chat, our guidance officer Mohammed and Denise, they're experts in this area, and they'd be really, really happy, to talk through that with you. So if that would be relevant to you, Liam will send you an email tomorrow, and please feel free to book yourself in a guidance appointment, whether it be over the phone or coming into our office, in the University of Leeds, or over Teams as well. So yeah, please do. Maddie, David, we've only got a few minutes, but we've got quite a few questions, if that's okay with you guys. So I've been trying to grab the questions as they come in, the ones that I can't answer. So the first one we had was, how do you get assessed on the course? Is it end of year exams, or is it driven by essay or project work?
So I've just jumped in, Maddie. Sorry. I'll do the thing, and then you can carry on and fix what I've said if you need to. It's a little bit of everything. Everyone has different strengths. everyone has different things that they kind of enjoy more. So we have a range of different assessments on the modules, so everyone can show off their strengths as well. But part of our role is also to prepare you for different assessments you're going to find on your degree as well. And doing an essay is much easier if you've already done a couple of essays, or doing an exam is much easier if you've already done an exam. So each of our modules has 2 assessments that can add towards the grade, and it's a real mix of essays, blogs, reflective pieces, creative work, solo presentations, group presentations, kind of timed assessments. So not always exams in a traditional sense where you're in a room with 100 people and you can write things down, but sometimes papers will be released and you'll need to answer a question in a couple of days. So yeah, a range of different ways to kind of spread it out a little bit. I think that's a fair enough summation. Maddie, what do you think?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I think it's very much the assessments are designed for study at Leeds as well, aren't they? That, you know, that's why we have, you know, the assignments we do, they're very much geared to the kind of things you'll do later on in your academic school.
The important thing is, no matter what assignment you've got coming up on your foundation year, we will help you prepare for it. We will have sessions in class talking about how to prepare for it, how to think about the questions. You can like talk to us about your ideas, about your preparation. So we don't just give you something and say, go away and do it. We guide you in that process.
Which actually, if you don't mind me saying, is something that is continued throughout university. There's not a single assessment that you'll ever be given in university where you're not encouraged to reach out to your tutors, your seminar leaders, and everyone to discuss preparing for an exam. It's the most weirdest thing that everyone helps you with the exam you're about to have. It's not that old-fashioned thing like sit there and answer these questions and that's it. They actually prepare you for it. How weird is that? Oh, wonderful is that?
I think Rufus, I think is a good point. I think that the way to think about assessments is they're not attempts for us to trick you, or we'll give them something really hard. They're opportunities for you to show off what you know and what you can do. That's what the way we see it.
Well, thank you, everybody. We've had some other questions as well. One question, which I think we maybe covered, but was there a specific pass rate you need to progress onto your degree subject?
Yes, so we have 2 different pass rates because they're set by the academic school that learners go into. So that varies depending on the academic school. For some academic schools, it is a 60 at university level, which is a 2-1, so an upper second class level. And for some courses, it is a 50, which is a lower second class level. And that's generally where courses have an interview or a portfolio requirement. But we do sort of talk through those progression requirements on an individual basis as part of induction, and learners complete a learning contract with us so that they know what they need to achieve for their particular route. So it does vary depending on the course that somebody's going into.
Thanks, Maddie. Another question we had was about when you might find out a decision once you've applied, I assume through UCAS. So that was from Liam. He just advised that it'd help him kind of decide on his next steps, really. So do we know if when people are likely to find out once they apply?
I don't know if David and I have that sort of info on the timescales at the moment, I'm afraid, because we're sort of quite early on in the sort of the year kind of cycle at the moment. That's certainly something colleagues in our student education team will be able to advise on. So we can maybe sort of follow up around that, or the Lifelong Learning Centre sort of welcome desk might be able to help further with that.
I will see if I can find out, Liam, and I'll see if I can send you an email after, just with a bit more information about that. But yeah, I can see if I can find out that for you. Hope that's okay. Another question was, can you progress onto linguistics, Maddie? James asked that question.
You can, yes. We progress into linguistics and phonetics, and also I think the programme is English language and linguistics. David might know if that is correct or not, because as we've said already, there's so many courses, so sometimes we have to just double check on Course Finder where everything is listed. But yes, we have students that do progress into those course areas.
Brilliant. And we had a question from Sasha as well, asking about the personal statement. Should your personal statement be tailored to the degree course that you want to progress onto after the foundation year, or be tailored to why you want to study the Arts and Humanities foundation? I think that's a great question, actually. Well, I think they've all been great questions, but
that is a really good question. I mean, I think generally what we say is, if a learner is applying to a range of courses, some that might have a foundation year, some that are direct entry, to write the personal statement for the subject course that you want to go into after the foundation year. So say if you were wanting to go into history progressions, you'd write it for that particular subject area. However, if a learner was applying solely for courses with foundation year, there might be sort of a context there for them to perhaps talk about those particular routes. But I think in general, it should be for the course that you want to progress onto. But again, the centre can sort of, provide kind of, any further guidance people might want to ask about that side of things.
And we do actually have an event coming up on the 24th of November, a UCAS application and personal statement session. So we'll send you some information about that. It is on campus, but if that's something that people might be interested in, it's specifically targeted adults who haven't had the opportunity to go to university before. So that would be suitable. You're very welcome to come along to that as well. And another question we've had, which we had a few questions about this, Maddie, about studying full-time, whether the course was available part-time. But I think particularly it might be maybe worth just if we mention about the amount of hours you're expected to be in for your studies. I think maybe people are thinking full-time study at universities is similar to perhaps a workplace where you maybe work 37 or 40 hours a week and you're expected to be there 9 to 5. I think university works quite differently when we use the term full-time. I don't know if you're okay just mentioning a bit more on that, Maddie.
Sure,
okay.
It's a really good question. So the course is a full-time programme. We don't run it in a part-time form at the moment, and what that means is that we do ask learners to kind of think about it as a kind of, I suppose, the hours that might be in a sort of, a full-time job in that regard. But we do understand that people might need to be flexible around their commitments in the week, in terms of, when some of those hours are undertaken. So we do teach through the week. We generally try to sort of structure lifelong learning centre modules between the hours of 10 and 5, but discovery modules tend to be a range of kind of time slots through the week. So around our sort of taught sessions of lectures, workshops and seminars, there are things like independent study, work that you might be undertaking with other learners for assessments and different things. Some of that is flexible as to when you would complete that. So so we talk about that full-time hours, but I think we really recognise that sometimes that needs to be flexible, and also working around people's kind of individual sort of schedules. But we have the timetabling, as I say, within those kind of usually 10 till 5 hours throughout the week.
Thanks, Maddie. Yeah, it's I think it's worth saying as well that the majority of adult learners, mature learners who are studying at university are actually studying full time. We might think that mature learners are more likely to be on a part-time course, and actually know that the vast majority are studying a full-time degree. So it's often people juggling lots of other responsibilities while they're studying. It could be childcare, other jobs, it could be caring responsibilities, just paying the bills, and just kind of getting on with normal life alongside your studies. I guess the reason I'm mentioning it is because it is doable. So don't just think, because particularly if you're an adult, and you're coming into university with a lot of extra responsibilities, or or just normal responsibilities really, that you won't be able to manage it, because there's lots of students who do manage it. It might not be the easiest, but they do manage it. So don't rule yourself out and think that if you can't study part-time you wouldn't be able to do it. There's a lot of financial support as well from student finance, as I said, support around disabilities and also caring supports. It could be around paying for childcare and things like that you might be able to get access to as well, that can help juggle and balance that. We had a question which I'll answer if that's okay, about can EU students get a loan for a foundation year? So that's quite a tricky question, I would say. The rules around EU students changed recently after Brexit. So it's around whether you're eligible for student finance in general, but a foundation year itself wouldn't be any different. So if you are eligible for student finance, you know, whether you're a EU national or whether what's called a home student, so a student who's classified for home fees, you would get your foundation year covered irrespective. So I would say in that sense, maybe send us an email and we can look into it further for you. I'll put my email in the chat because myself and my colleague Paula, we spoke about a few times today, are members of the National Association of Student Money Advisors, and it might be a case that we look at your situation individually and kind of unpick it a bit more, because it's around settled and pre-settled status as to whether you're eligible or not for funding. But I'll put my email address in there now. And I think Marcin, I think you would like to ask a question over the microphone, which you're really welcome to do. Please do.
Good evening. Can you hear me well? Yes, thank you. I have been reading about Miss Madeleine and Mr. David, and I would just like to ask, will you be teaching any other epochs rather than the Renaissance during your studies too?
Shall I have a go? I'll answer this one. Sorry, can I just check? Will we be teaching any other kind of historical periods other than the Renaissance that you asked?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Renaissance is the only kind of specific quote-unquote historical period, although that's a very elastic term, that we look at on the foundation year. Modernity and post-modernity as a module does take a close look at mid to late 20th century European history and art. So there's a bit of kind of recent 20th century analysis in there as well. So they're the only kind of historical periods that we really look at. But in image, music, text, if there's something you want to pursue in terms of special interest, or if you find a discovery module that looks at a different historical period that you want to study alongside your foundation year, then you're more than welcome to do so. But I guess the point is that the skills, the practice at analysing one historical period sets you up to have the skills to analyse different ones as well, even if the kind of the subject matter is different. I hope that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Another question for you, Mr. David. Do you teach any Victorian literature?
We don't have any specific Victorian literature on the module, although being a Victorianist myself, my doctorate was in popular late Victorian and early 20th century literature. I squeeze it in when I can in like image music text if I want to pick a text to analyse. But a lot of the themes that I wrote about in my doctorate do crop up. So ideas of modernity, ideas of the city, things like that.
And about literature again, what kind of texts will we be reading for the image, text and music? Like, will it be a prose, poetry to dramas? And
yeah, a bit of everything. Image, music, text looks at mostly kind of critical and essays about people writing about kind of reading and studying. We study a range of kind of literary texts of modernity, post-modernity. We look at some T.S. Eliot, we look at Franz Kafka, we look at contemporary writers like Haruki Murakami from Japan. On the Renaissance module, we'll look at kind of Renaissance playwrights and poets like Kit Marlowe, William Shakespeare. So a real range, I'm not sure I could list them all to you now, but you can read about the modules online. They kind of give you a little summary of them.
And another question to Ms. Madeleine now, about the sculpting. Is there any kind of artistic faculties that the university has access to, say like woodworking shops or sculpting workshops?
Those things would be offered potentially in School of Design and School of Fine Art. That wouldn't be something we'd be able to offer in the foundation year. And that would, I suppose, vary in terms of what particular facilities those schools have. Programs like art and design and fine art, obviously, they do sort of have provision for learners to explore kind of three-dimensional art making in all its forms. So certainly they would potentially have that kind of scope for creative practice in that way, but I think it might be worth sort of really looking at what they've got, you know, through their website or through contacting the school, because I don't think we can kind of give you the full detail on that really. But yeah, I think very likely, but they'd be able to sort of give you a bit more detail about what exactly they have in that area.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Martin, for those questions. We've terribly run over to nearly 7:30, so I'm sorry for that's me. I should have probably been more on that. But it's just because we've had such great questions, I think, from you guys, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. And as I said, you know, at the start of the session, if there are questions that you still have that we haven't answered or that you think of later on, please feel free to contact us. Liam's going to send you an email tomorrow. It'll have all the information and hopefully a recording of the session. If we don't send it tomorrow, we'll be able to send it soon to you anyway. And but you know, you're welcome to keep asking us questions. You know, as many questions as you want. If the guidance service sounds like it'd be suitable for you or useful, please feel free to access that and any other events that we have coming up. I mean, as I said, we have a UCAS session coming up soon, but generally after that, we'll be looking at student finance in a bit more detail, and we'll have a host of other sessions and events. We have one specifically around studying at university as a mature learner and all the kind of, you know, myth busting, I guess you would say, around some of the things that people can be concerned about. So yeah, anything else that we do that you feel will be useful for you, please feel free to come along. And thanks, David, Maddie, and Rufus, and Liam. Thanks so much to everybody who's come as well. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.